Hey, it's Rachel here. I just wanted to get on here and just kind of go over some things. I I have a friend on Facebook and she posts a lot of, you know, topics about abuse because of her background with an ex-relationship. And just something that she posted that was very long, but I read it pretty much all the way through, was very informative and literally just opened up my eyes to so many different aspects. And I think that that's important because there's so many things that I didn't even realize that were already affecting me. Just aspects of abuse and things that mentally, were dealt with that I just never even paid attention to. But she posted this very long thing about Lundy Barcroft, and it was basically his breakdown of abuse personas, however you want to call it. And it was just so eye-opening. And, to look at this and be like, yeah, I mean, just to be, if you know anything about Lundy Barcroft or any of his, literature, like, he breaks it down so precisely as to what these type of people are. Like in my case, I had a Mr. Always Right, and he also had, the sensitive guy persona that he would play, the victim. Then from there, he was always, honestly, the water torturer. Just the way that he would just constantly pick at me, and it didn't bother him. Like, he would want to have these arguments and not even really show any emotion while I'm sitting here squalling my eyes out and, really hating myself for the things that he's saying that I've done to him. And it just amazes me how, what's the word I'm thinking of? Like, cookie cutter this was. Like, how cookie cutter he was in the way that he would follow these, like, patterns of abuse. And, like, just ridiculous amount of just similarities. And I just, sometimes I feel stupid because, I didn't realize this right away, but, like, he wasn't like this to begin with. He wasn't. And that's pretty much everyone's abuse story. They never were abusive until they were abusive. You wouldn't just fall in love with someone who was abusive right off the bat. You just, it kind of happens. And that's something I never realized in the past when, thinking about people who were in abusive situations, and I feel ashamed at the way that I used to think about people like me, people who had been in my situation, that, that they were weak, and that they were, I don't know, not deserving, but, just get out. If it's that bad, just leave. Sometimes you can't. One of the biggest things that I never even paid attention to was the financial abuse that I was dealing with. when you're in a relationship with someone who is controlling and, you know, they have financial security. He had financial security. He was making between $25 and $3,000 a month. And I was bringing in around $900. And when I actually added up how much money I paid, like I was paying in like almost the entirety of my income to be in a relationship with him and live with him. And I mean, that was just ridiculous. I mean, I would have like $20 to spare at the end of the month if I wanted to. And that's $20. That's not counting the odd off chance that I needed to grab something to eat one day while I was out, you know, at work, or the odd off chance that I needed shampoo and conditioner, body wash, those kind of things. And he would just berate me over not having any money. Then berate me if I spent money. I mean, it eventually got to the point where, like, I just quit buying things for myself. Ever. Like even as something as simple as replacing my toothbrush. I used the same toothbrush in the relationship with him for probably an entire year, because I just couldn't afford to spend the extra $1 or $2 on a new toothbrush. Yet he went out and bought a $200 toothbrush, and then I could go on and on and on about it, because I mean, that was the thing that I think was the biggest problem, was the money differences, the amount of money I made compared to what he made. Because he would berate me if he had to buy groceries an extra time. Like if we needed to go out and spend about $50 on groceries, he would berate me because by that point I had no money. I couldn't be like, oh, here's $25 when I don't have anything. The biggest example. Okay, so when we moved, I transferred insurances, and I had to get full coverage, or chose to get full coverage because it was around the same price as liability in the city that we were moving to. When I got up there, 2 months in, not even 2 months in really, I was in a car accident. Yeah, not the best thing in the world to have happened, but it was my first time ever really driving in a populated city, heavily populated city, multiple lane traffic like that. I mean, I'm a small town girl. I mean, we still have dirt roads where I live, and they make up really big sections of the town. So, I got into an accident. My car was basically totaled out by my insurance, and I was paid around $4,000. I literally had to use that money to pay bills, my portion of the bills. I wasn't able to get my car fixed. Now my car is broke down. And then continuously all the time he would be like, oh, and you wasted all that money from your insurance settlement. You spent all that money. Where did all that money go? And I'm thinking to myself, that money paid my part of the bills. That money paid my part of the groceries. That money allowed me to buy shampoo and conditioner. That money allowed me to, go on that trip that you wanted to go on. That, I mean, just so much, just abuse about money. And I mean, it was really annoying because he would go on trips for work and then visit places, and it was no problem for him to be like, oh, I spent $600 on things for myself. And then you know, this was around the time I had mono, and I was out of work for nearly a month, barely had any money, and here I am, like, I'm gonna run to the grocery store because I'm running out of food at the house, and I lied to him because I got more things than I told him I was gonna get. I mean, I spent $20 at the grocery store, and it became this huge argument because I bought myself, I bought myself some Sprites, and I didn't tell him I was gonna buy myself some Sprites. And I'm like, first of all, you should be happy that I was able to get out of the house and walk around a grocery store, not why did you spend $2.50 on 6 bottles of Sprite when you could have just not bought what you told me you only bought what you were told me you were going to buy. Just so irritating. Just I can't even, now that I'm out of that situation, I can't even fathom why I didn't blow up, because I do have a temper. I have a temper. I am a very, I don't know, I wouldn't say, I can be a very angry person. I don't understand how he was able to manipulate me to deal with his bullcrap. I really do not understand. I mean, and it drives me insane. Just, like, you don't treat people like that. You don't treat people like that. And then to say, turn around and say it was all for love. He was in love with me, and he wanted to be with me, but then didn't want to be with me all at the same time, but then wanted to be with me and loved me, but also hated everything about me. Just, how do you wake up in the morning to decide that this is the way you want to treat the person you're supposed to love? How? How? I mean, and now, like, you know, there's just so many residual things going on in my head. Like, I've gained weight. I've gained a lot of weight, and that in and of itself is another thing, because he always had this, like, you know, love of the fact that I was curvy, but also wanted to change everything about that, but also fetishized my weight, but then also would constantly talk about, you know, when we go to the gym, we're going to go to the gym, we're going to get fit, you know, oh, when you lose a little bit of weight, that outfit will look really good on you. Like, I've gained weight, so I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm, you know, just a big fat blob now. Which, I mean, that's my problem. Nobody is. That's my issue. That's my chip, or whatever you want to call it. That's my stone to form, whatever you want to call it. That's me. I don't look at anybody else and say, oh my gosh, you're a big fat blob. I mean, you be whoever you want to be. You deal with whatever you want to deal with. I'll deal with this. I mean, I'm thinking in my head, like, look at me, I'm gotten fat, my face looks all bloated. Just annoying stuff. But also, like, on top of all of that, like, I haven't really left the house in 2 weeks at this point. Before that, I hadn't left the house in almost a month. I'm avoiding leaving the house. I mean, part of that is because, like, in my last video, I think it was, I, thought I saw his vehicle and my heart dropped. I mean, you have no idea how disturbing it was for me to walk out of that Walmart and see his car. Like, my mind instantly went, that's him. That's his car. And like, just the fear that I'm just going to walk outside the house one day and he's going to be standing out there. Or I'm going to, finally feel good about, finally feel open enough to leave the house, and then, like, say go to the mall and there he is just standing right there, and he's like, I got you. I knew it. I found you. I'm not going to leave you alone. Just the amount of like anxiety that I'm dealing with because of his bullcrap. This video is going to be long. I mean, it's just very annoying. And like, I found this out. I pretty much already knew it. Like, there's certain people in my family that didn't even believe that anything was going on. Probably still don't believe that anything was really going on, to the extent that they left me up there when I asked them to come and help me, to take me away from there, to allow me to live with them, and just didn't believe that I was really going through anything. I mean, I hate to point fingers, but like, even like super close family members that are very important to me just didn't believe me when I said that he was treating me this way. Which made it, I guess, easier for me to stay, because I'm like, maybe I am crazy. Maybe I am just blowing things out of proportion. Because when someone as close as that tells you, tries to talk you out of what's going on in your mind, the rationalizing that you are having, it just, it makes it a little easier for you to just be like, well, maybe if I just stick it out, maybe if I just deal with it, maybe this, maybe that, maybe this. It kind of sickens me a little bit to think that somebody this close to me would not believe me. If they cannot believe me when I tell them I'm being abused by a partner, what else would they just ignore? What else would they brush to the side and just be like, she's just being crazy? Because like the first night, like, it ever really happened when we were up there, he left the house. Like, when the first time we really got into this, argument where he was manipulating me and just berating me and calling me all of these things, I called this person and we talked on the phone. I'm crying for probably an hour. I'm like squalling. I'm really upset. I'm basically like super distraught, and this person just laying there, like, I'm just laying there listening to this person, and they're saying things like, in a relationship, things take work. In a relationship, you deal with these things. Basically, you're sitting there telling me that that this is part of being in a relationship with someone, for someone to berate you and call you all these bad names and tell you that you're worthless, basically. And this is normal. And this is just a part of life if you want to be in a relationship with someone. I call bullcrap. But what this person doesn't know is, and this might be absolutely insane, absolutely crazy, just the weirdest thing in the entire world. I got in touch with one of his exes. One of his exes that he just hated, like, and he would backtalk her all the time, badmouth her and talk about her, but like still fetishized her because he would find porn that had actors or people in it that resembled her and would want to tell me these things and show me these videos. And I'm just like, no, I don't really want to see that. And like, it was just annoying the amount of time and effort and emotion and thought he put into people he used to be in a relationship with when he was in a relationship with me. And would compare them to me, compare me to them, and say, that's just like so and so. That's just like, they did the exact same thing, and that's why I left them, and all that stuff. And I reached out to one of these people, and they contacted me back, and we had not a very long discussion, but we had a discussion where basically everything that I was going through was validated. And I'm like, just in my head, I'm just like, I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. This happened. It is a pattern of his. This is a pattern of life that he has. And I mean, a lot of it probably stems from the fact that he grew up in an abusive household, which is no excuse for being an abuser. I grew up, in a sexually abusive household at some point. Not my parents' household, but in a household I was in guardianship of these people. And, I grew up with this, and I'm not a child molester. I'm not, a predator. I don't associate with these things. I don't participate in these things. That doesn't mean that my abuse was not as severe as someone else's, but I have made my mind up in my head that these people are bad and I'm a good person. I've made up in my head that, I mean, and honestly, I don't even think that it's like a conscious decision. That's just not the type of person that I would be. I hate people who associate with, child abuse. I hate it to the full extent. As it's like vile. It's disgusting. And, maybe it was just a different type of abuse can cause different types of things. But I mean, he grew up in an abusive relationship with his family, his mom and his dad. And, seeing that, I guess that's how he formed relationships, how he decides the relationships are supposed to be. Rather than looking at it and seeing the effects that it had on his mother and deciding that this is not the type of person he wants to be. But I guess in a way he kind of validated it because they're still together. His mom and his dad are still together despite the fact that his dad was abusive physically, mentally, and emotionally, and manipulative. And they're still together. So I guess in his head, that's the key to being in a long time relationship with someone, is to basically just treat them like they're trash. And, eventually things will work itself out. But I mean, just to speak to this woman, and, a beautiful woman, very strong woman, moved on from her abusive relationship and is now in a steady married relationship with her husband. And, was actually disgusted that he still fixated on her, that he was still in this relationship with her in his mind. And then, I mean, the amount of lies that he told me about her just to, make her seem horrible when she's really not. I mean, props to you, girl. You are stronger than I am. You were able to get out, and now you are not mentally screwed up. I mean, just, I mean, he made her seem like she's just such a low down, dirty person when she's not. And she hadn't been. She was a hard worker. She still is. And, you know, like, in his eyes, she was a user. And, you know, she's not. Like, I mean, she's a hardworking woman. And just the fact that I felt so disbelieved about this that I had to go back to his past and look up his past relationships to see, you know, I'm not crazy. You know, this actually happens. He is this type of person. I mean, oh my gosh, you know, you're not crazy, Rachel. Just, that's kind of ridiculous. I just don't understand how someone this close to you and your family would just brush your, I guess, cries for help to the side and just be like, oh, okay, yeah, yeah, this is just how a relationship is. Yeah, sometimes he says you're stupid and selfish and fat, and, you know, will sit there and tell you, spend all of your money, but don't spend all of your money, and if you do, you're horrible, and if you don't, you're horrible. I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm talking about at this point. I'm just super frustrated because, I mean, I don't know. I have no honest idea. Just so confused about how people can be this way. How can you be an abusive person? I mean, I don't understand it. How can you treat people like that? Like, I never treat anybody like that. I mean, I don't understand. But, I mean, apparently people are that way. There's millions of them. Oh well. It just, I mean, it's just a bunch of ramble what I'm saying right now. I mean, this is going to be like a 30-minute long video and nobody's going to watch it. Which is fine. But just absolutely insane that people exist that are like this. I don't understand it.